Starfield, made by an insanely big studio like Bethesda, Starfield is proving to be even bigger, by far the largest open world of any title. Over 1,000 planets, included with the ability to travel in space and all sorts of quests to keep you busy, along many dangerous enemies from human to aliens. This game is really setting itself up to be Game of the Year. Fingers crossed it doesn't delay.
According to the scanners, the abandoned research facility is in this direction.
Use your spyglass to identify
Skull and Bones. Ubisoft has decided to go after a new style. Skull and Bones is an open world title taking place in the Indian Ocean. We take the role of a pirate and fight other ships, take their resources and recruits. We can also explore islands and trade, very similar to Sea of Thieves. This game, however, has received criticism, so it's best to stay put until other reviews come out.
Boarding maneuver will help maximize your gains. But beware, you can turn from predator to prey in a heartbeat if you attract the unwanted attention of privateers, the merciless pirate hunters that patrol the seas. If you enjoy the thrill of the hunt, you can also seek out other players and rain terror on them. Such PvP battles are high-stakes activities that can be rewarding if you emerge victorious. From your spoils of battle, personalize your individual look with outfits that command respect. You can also select from a multitude.
Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, a first-person action adventure game taking place in Pandora, a jungle-like setting with lakes, wildlife, and many enemies surrounding the area. And this game seems to be mainly focused on the single player and story, which is a big positive for most players. I personally would have preferred third person, but nonetheless, the enemies and combat system are two things that I have to see as soon as I can. Stalker 2, a first-person post-apocalyptic shooter taking place in the Exclusion Zone, a place where a nuclear power plant exploded and left nothing but pain. In this world, you will encounter anomalies, fractions, and mutants. As a lone stalker, you decide who is worthy of your helping hand and who gets a bullet.
And who the fuck are you?
And what do we have a decade later? The Zone, in our image, after our likeness.
My men are still lying out there, and I can't even bury them.
Crimson Desert, a medieval fantasy game taking place in the continents of Pywell. There are all sorts of opposition in this game, from human knights to mystical creatures like dragons and werewolves, and the combat system looks to be very advanced. You're not just swinging an axe around. You can grab, tackle, throw your enemies, and you can also use kicking. Also, this game is insanely impressive graphics wise and has similarities to Witcher 3. Atlas Fallen. Another very graphically stunning open world game, and this time the combat involves powers. Even the movement includes powers, like gliding, air dashing, all through the desert environment. The fight themselves will be against all sorts of creatures, so this is more of a fantasy game with fantasy combat features rather than realism. It's very promising.
I will bury you like the rest.
Peaceful setting. This will make our game seem big and
Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds makes its way back after 4 years with a sequel. A sci-fi first-person shooter with a unique environment design, many different enemies, and more than anything, a great story. The first game received great reviews and many people compare it to the Fallout series. No doubt this next game is guaranteed to be another success by Obsidian.
and should bolster pre-sale numbers. That wah sound can mean only one thing. We must gaze over an epic shot of a world, and there should be lens flares. Now we see our hero, but only their silhouette, because the developers haven't finished the design, or finished the story, or finished any gameplay that's actually ready to show. In fact, the only thing they have finished is the title.
In ancient Baghdad, he flees the guards through a darkened tunnel.
Assassin's Creed Mirage. Assassin's Creed is regaining a lot of its fanbase support since this game is going back to their old ways. One of the biggest complaints was that Assassin's Creed no longer felt the same. Well, this game is changing that, and it is bringing back the Assassin's Creed identity, this time in a Middle Eastern setting.
Remaining guard.
Then out of the dark, you will come into the light.
In a darkened tower, he appears bearded and wearing an assassin's hood as she helps him up. He blocks her blade as she swings at him. They block and duck one another's blows out onto scaffolding surrounding the unfinished tower. He pursues her to an edge. He smirks, then lunges. She twists behind him, then pushes him over the edge.
And from the light,
In the ceremony,
you will return to the dark.
she covers embers.
Nightingale, a first-person survival open-world title with all of the mechanics you'd see in a survival game. Crafting, building, gathering resources, and so on. But it has a cool twist with their portal system and magic. We are stuck on the Fey realms of Nightingale, monsters, wildlife, and overall a lot of danger, which you must stay clear of until you have what it takes. This title is said to be in a post-apocalyptic era, back in the year 1889.
Beyond the frontiers of your reality. Realms alive with monstrous beasts, eldritch creatures and dangers of which you cannot conceive. You must gather your wits, craft whatsoever you require, and build a life in the realms.
Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn, a third-person RPG with very heavy melee combat. The portal has opened to the God's army of the undead. With your companion, you must travel along the world and battle all sorts of evil throughout your journey, from the regular enemies to the difficult bosses. Honestly, this game has a Dark Souls feel to it, but the main element we need to know is, how big is the open world really?
Heartland's a free-to-play survival action shooter.
The Division Heartland. After 4 years, The Division has a new sequel, The Division Heartland. However, it is a little different. Venture into Silver Creek alone or with your squad. The virus has taken over and it has become incredibly fatal. Inside of this open world, you will fight both AI and other players. And since this title is an extraction shooter, expect looting and survival to be the principal keys to make it out alive.
From agencies like Sarah in The Division, what help did the Heartland get? This game ties directly into the timeline and introduces all new characters and storylines to the franchise.
A set of missions and projects, all focused on the goals of exploring the town and gathering the supplies necessary to help prepare the base of operations. Every mission completed gives players the tools and strength necessary to survive.
Silver Creek is a hostile.
DokeV. Once again from Pearl Abyss, another game coming, and this time, something I would have imagined on a Nintendo console, but graphically it is pretty advanced. DokeV is an open world action adventure game that seems to break the barrier of creativity of the last couple of years in gaming. It will also have multiplayer in the form of co-op, which should have about 4 players. So you can cause chaos, fight all sorts of creatures, and do unique missions with friends and family. And in something that we honestly have never seen before.
Flash is alive, and he's playing for Team Brainiac.
Suicide Squad, an open world RPG game made by Rocksteady Studios. Very high rated games, but this time they're going after the story of the Suicide Squad as they fend off an alien invasion by Brainiac. Somehow the alien being has taken control of the Justice League and is forcing them to aid him, leaving the squad as Earth's last line of defense against annihilation. Now, I would say stay cautious with this title because there's a few controversies, and one of them is their always online requirement, which may cause issues for them as more people figure that out. But nonetheless, this game is being talked about a lot, and the developers really need to eliminate that controversy if they want to move forward.
Who else needs a bastion?